All right, so this week we're talking about creating a budget. First, you need to know what are your necessities that you need to include in your budget. Do you absolutely have to have a certain kind of cuisine or caterer? Do you absolutely have to have a certain kind of venue? There's so many things that you'll have to buy, that you'll have to source for a wedding, and you need to know what are the things that you cannot go without. So some things that you could probably go without are things like a balloon arch. But something you probably can't go without is food at your wedding. Some things you could probably go without if you absolutely had to was a high-end, huge dessert table. And instead you could just get some local grocery store items if you were on that tight of a budget. But that's kind of what I mean by knowing what are your necessities, what do you have to have. And then also know what your resources are. Do you have a family friend who owns a bakery that you can get a discount? Do you know the owner of a venue and you can get a discount there? Does your best friend happen to have just got married and have a whole list of awesome vendors that you can choose from? So know your resources, know your connections, and work those. Now, really quickly, I mean your resources in getting like awesome discounts for things that won't be horrible. I do not mean frienders in terms of photographers or having your family member be your videographer who has limited to no experience in videography, or your mom be your day of coordinator who has no business being a day of coordinator. No offense, but because it's just so stressful and she should be enjoying your wedding. So that's what I mean by knowing your resources. And then know what you can pay for out of pocket versus how much debt you're willing to go into for this wedding. So if you're like, I'm not adding more debt to my plate, I already have student loans or whatever, I need to just pay for what I can out of pocket and call it a day. That is always probably the best option, because as a newly wedded couple, the last thing you want to do is, yay, beautiful, huge, extravagant wedding, yay, awesome honeymoon, get back, boom, reality hits, oh my gosh, we're in so much debt from a day of a party. And obviously it's way more than that. But in essence, you don't want to start your marriage off in $30,000 worth of debt from a wedding. Spend that money on a freaking car. So no, I have this amount of money and I can pay, realistically, I can probably pay for all this out of pocket. Awesome. It might be a little stressful because the money's out front to begin with, but then you don't have to worry about paying someone back. But hey, if you want this huge extravagant wedding that you've been dreaming of since you were a little girl or a little boy or whatever, and you're willing to go into debt and you're like, I can pay it off within a year or whatever, don't recommend that. Look up Dave Ramsey, Healthy Money Habits. However, if you're willing to go into debt and you want this extravagant wedding, then hey, the sky's kind of the limit with how much debt. If you're like, I don't care, I just want my dream wedding, then get the awesome vendors, get the awesome venue, go all balls to the walls. But just know what you're comfortable with. Next, look at what kind of payment schedules you can do. That'll help with picking out your vendor. So especially if you're going to pay out of pocket, kind of plan out when you can start booking each vendor and when you can make payments to each vendor. So some vendors will be very strict on when things need to be paid. Other vendors, like us, for example, we let you pay whenever within a certain amount of time. So we have a deposit, and then usually, depending on how much it is, like if it's a bigger package that's like a little bit more expensive, like say photography and coordination, then we'll probably have you pay in a certain month's breakdown that we'll talk out with you. And then the balance just has to be completed by the week before the wedding. And a lot of vendors will do stuff like that. They'll be flexible with their payment plans. However, other vendors will not be flexible. So kind of know what you can do in those terms, because that'll help with picking vendors, which we will talk about soon as well. And then start adding everything up. So you'll have to look around. So you're creating your budget and you looked at your necessities and your resources, and you have to start adding things up. Well, you'll want to do research for the local vendors in the area, unless you like want to fly out some photographer that you are absolutely in love with that lives in, I don't know, New York, and you live in California. Start looking at what's in the area, what the average prices are for things, and if you can afford only a low level vendor, a medium level vendor, or the huge extravagant well-known celebrity vendor. And then based off of those prices that you're comfortable paying, start adding everything up to get your whole budget costs. If you want a breakdown of that, go to our website, thatbliss.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. When this video is live and our blog is live, you'll get an email if you signed up for the subscription list, and I'll do a breakdown sheet that will help you add all your vendors, know what vendors you need, and help you like build your budget out. So if you want that tool, subscribe on our website. Otherwise, just get a pen and paper and start adding things up. However, if you are office savvy and you know how to work Excel, I love Excel for all things budget. Build out a spreadsheet. It will help with your organization. If you don't know how to do that, just start adding things up, or get the budget tool that is going to be available in the email when this blog is live. So there you have it. You have to look at your necessities, what you absolutely have to have. Also look at things that you want to add on. Look at your resources. What connections do you have to discounts, to offerings? What can you pay for out of pocket? What are you willing to go into debt for if you are? If not, don't do it. Figure out what payment schedules you can do, and then start adding everything up. And there you have it. You're on your way to building your wedding budget. Stay tuned. Next week, we will talk about finding a venue and a date, how to do it, what to look for, what you need, all of that jazz. And then after that, we'll talk about vendor selection, and that will conclude our October mini series. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.